Hello and welcome. Can you introduce yourself and what you do at MCK?
Thank you. My name is Mecha Joseph. I work for the Media Council of Kenya, currently as the Regional Coordinator Nakuru. Yes.
Today we are discussing the issue of mental health among journalists in the media spaces. And we'd like you to guide us and give us some insight as the MCK, knowing that you are actually the head. You are the people nyinyi tunakimbilia when something happens for help. So we would like to know, how does the MCK integrate mental health in its broader mandate in media freedom and professionalism?
The Media Council of Kenya, of course, being the regulator, we incorporate mental health into the broader, mandate of promoting media freedom and, of course, also ensuring media standards. Because we believe that mental health affects the output, the work that journalists do. Because if maybe a journalist is not mentally well, or rather they are doing their work in a very hostile environment, we believe that their output will not be that accurate, will not be that in depth and all that. So when a journalist is settled, a journalist is mentally well, they're able now to look for stories, they're able to do their stories well, in-depth reporting and all that. Unlike when a journalist is maybe working in a very, conflict-prone area, they've seen a very, terrifying images, they are covering, issues to do with, bloody scenes and all that. The mental wellness then directly, informs whatever that they do. So the Media Council of Kenya has invested a lot in ensuring that we provide mental health awareness programs, psychosocial support for the journalist, and of course we try to also, provide safety trainings for journalists so that then they are safe. They're also well, mentally, they're settled and they can do their work accurately. So that is why we feel that, mental health has a direct connection with what journalists do. So your mental wellness directly affects whatever that you do. Even, for example, if maybe you've gone, maybe it's a severe condition, for example, you've been maybe covering some conflicts, or rather you're getting some threats online, maybe you're doing investigative journalism and all that, and then you're receiving some threats here and there. So that affects your work, entirely. You cannot really deliver as expected and all that. So we provided trainings, rather sensitization forums for, journalists, especially those, covering stories in conflict-prone areas. Those who have received threats, we've organized like psychosocial support for them. We look for experts. Of course, we get into contact with an expert, or then takes them through the psychosocial support, so that, of course, we cannot evade, we cannot really run away from, covering, conflicts, getting threats and all that, because our work, as journalists, is to report the truth. And for you to report the truth, you need to be, in the field and see how things are happening. And some find themselves in a very, compromising situations. And some, the work of media is also, to annoy, so long as you annoy accurately in a professional manner. And so some can get, some threats here and there. So we come in as a council, first to provide, trainings, and then also support, through psychosocial support. Yeah.
What are the examples of the current support services that are currently available for journalists who have undergone any mental pressure as the MCK? Any current examples that you're using?
Yeah, the council has received, several cases, of course, countrywide. But you'll allow me just to mention the ones that we received in Nakuru region. Yeah, during the demonstrations, guys came to the streets to protest, against the financial bill. I remember the journalists also came out just to cover the events, and some of the journalists got injured. Journalists were like a target in that time, because they were, covering, demonstrations while putting on the jackets. They were identifying themselves well, so they are very well known that they are journalists. But now, still, we received, some cases of, police brutality, targeting journalists and all that. Some were injured, some received some threats. So the council came in, and I remember we offered support for, one individual who was shot on thighs. We provided, some financial support, and we also supported in terms of, once that happens, there's a procedural way of doing things. First, you report to the police. And of course, we reached out to IPOA, who came in handy for investigation. I remember we relocated the lady to a different, safer place, because now she was under, some stress and some threat. So we moved her from Nakuru to, another space, a safer place, as we waited for investigations to take place. And of course, I know there's some that, have gone through a lot of, challenges here and there. Simply because of such, scenarios, and the council has come in handy, in terms of financial support, even, supporting the family in one way or the other. Some have been flown out of the country just for their safety, and of course providing the counseling, trauma counseling, services are also offered by the council. Yeah.
Okay, so the genesis of being a journalist basically starts from school. From the universities.
Yes.
So is there a plan to involve universities or training institutions to bring resilience among journalist students?
Yeah, it's really key, and we are really investing in that, because in terms of mentoring young and upcoming journalists, and especially in matters safety. They say safety starts with you. And there's no story, rather there's no activity that's worth your life. Sure. Yeah, that's what we were always told. I was taught that when I was in school. So it's good that we take them through, programs to do with safety. How, the reporting parts, what you should report, what shouldn't report, what can put you maybe into, some threats. And of course, the issue of, presentation. How do you present yourself, especially when you're going to cover stories and all that? Yeah, how do you introduce yourself? What are the key, documents that you should have with you? Some of the journalists have really found themselves into problems simply because of the way they present themselves whenever they're going to, gather information. Maybe you don't have a press card. Maybe you don't have a student card if you're a student. Yeah, and maybe the way you introduce yourself and the way you compose yourself and all that also matters. So yeah, young and upcoming journalists are key as far as media, reporting and resilience is concerned. So yeah, we value so much young journalists, and we reach out, and of course we also invite some experts, some of the veteran journalists, to share their experiences in the media field. Media is so dynamic. The media landscape in Kenya and even the world is so dynamic. So each day is a learning day. So we reach out to these veterans, we reach out to experts. Yeah, of course, discussing issues, of course, various thematic issues, affecting the media, including safety and mental health.
Okay, that's very encouraging.
Yeah.
And also, you earlier mentioned that you have initiatives or steps to handle these cases of mental health among journalists. And for something to be successful, you have to take the feedback.
Yeah.
So we'd like to know, or what feedback have journalists given about these programs and what it has shaped, and how this feedback has shaped, or these programs have shaped the future generations of journalists?
I'll say the feedback is positive, but of course, tied with our mandate, and of course, there's some limitations of what we can do, what we cannot do. Like I told you before, once maybe a journalist has been beaten, the equipment destroyed and all that, there's a procedure that we should follow. Of course, first reporting to the police. And then there's this IPOA that, takes the cases up and, they try to do investigations and all that. So as the council, what we've done is most of the time, we've issued very serious show causes. Yeah, we've issued very serious show causes, trying to condemn some of the acts. For example, journalist harassment and threats. Yeah, we've even singled out maybe individuals who've come out openly, fighting the media for no good reason. Yeah, and we've also engaged, media owners, because most of the media outlets in Kenya are owned by very influential guys in the society. Some are politicians and all that. So we also reach out to them, trying to ask them. Of course, we do not have like a guideline per se on how maybe they can, ensure they ensure safety of journalists. But we have a training manual that guides on how they can train, journalists. They can guide them on how matter safety and all that. So it is a multi-sectoral way of approach. Yeah, there's some limitations that the council has some limitation. This is something that we cannot do. Yeah, and if maybe a case is beyond us, there's a way that we escalate that case to the other authorities. But we're working closely with security agencies like IPOA to do investigations, and of course working closely with the courts in Kenya, working closely with the media owners, working closely with the parliamentarians who also play a critical in terms of policy implementations and all that. So yeah, the council, our part mostly is to pick up an issue. Of course, if it's something that we can handle within our mandate, we can do it. If it's something that we can't handle within our mandate, then we escalate it to another authority that's responsible. And of course, the issuance of show causes, and of course discussing these issues in our forums, of course, when we are organizing this forum, because we target different key stakeholders, so that then we can come up with an amicable solution to such a problem.
Okay. Bruno, we know currently the digital space, the media where journalists work is very broad. We're no longer in the traditional media, we have the digital, which is a very diverse and big, large landscape. And journalists are also hopping into this space. But these spaces have challenges of cyberbullying, burnout, stress, trolling, and everything. How does the MCK help in the mental health of journalists on online media spaces, the digital ones?
Yeah, that is very true. Actually, we are onboarding to social media, and social media has really taken over. Even now, the legacy media, including the radio, is online. They can be broadcasting in an enclosed place, but then they want also to go online so that people can see them. Unlike before, when watu walikuwa wanavaa hata shorts, wanaingia kwa radio station, wanatangaza ujui vile amevaa, but nowadays now you need to dress like someone who's going to broadcast on TV. So even the print media, so everything has actually shifted. We are now utilizing social media as a way of communication. To respond to your question, how the Media Council now is, coming in to ensure that there's that safety, online safety and all that. We've also invested a lot, especially in sensitization forums on matters digital literacy. Digital literacy, the safe pathways of reportage, how to report. Sometimes you might attract, harassment and threats depending on how you report. Yes, so we encourage them to remain professional at all time. And of course, understand some of the dynamics of digital space. Yes, what do you disseminate? and how do you disseminate it? And of course, the pathways also matters. Yeah, we discourage mostly issues to do with the copy paste or rather conveyor journalism, where you can just copy information and just use it the way it is, without verification and all that. That's where some of the threats and conflicts emanate from. So once they remain professional, then they should know some of the laws, of course, the Cybercrime Act and all that, that govern how you use information and how you disseminate it. So generally, it's about digital safety. How do you use it? Do not just expose yourself so much. For example, sometimes we get carried away, by social media, by the followers and all that. You find maybe a journalist is posting, whatever that is doing, where he is. If maybe he's moving from Nakuru to 𝐂𝐤𝐿𝐴, it's telling people, I'm now moving from Nakuru to 𝐂𝐤𝐿𝐴, posting the families online. This is my last born, some of such a things, and then this is my wife and all that. So we discourage them not to expose themselves so much. It doesn't matter, of course. Maybe you might be trying to chase some clickbaits and all that, but now about your safety. Not most journalists are enemies of some individuals who might have some selfish interests, and so when you report accurately and you focus on the truth, then they're not happy about it. So you can imagine when now you're telling us you're taking your family to a certain place in Mombasa for kujivinjari, someone can really get you easily. So online now, it has become the order of the day, and so we should like when we're doing our work as journalists, especially when you're doing some very sensitive information, dissemination of information, sensitive stories and all that, we should be very careful. Of course, the digital, we look at the positive side and the negative one. Of course, we can utilize social media to monetize our content, to market ourselves and all that, but again, let's see the negative part of it. So we need to be very careful how we utilize it, so that then we don't find ourselves into such problems.
Okay, so from where you sit, actually we are the Media Council of Kenya, the organization that represents journalists. So basically, what advice or activities or roles would you advise journalists themselves to play in sustaining the culture of mental well-being and awareness in the media landscape?
I'll again repeat what I said earlier. We cannot be everywhere as the council. Yes, we are, trying to protect journalists. We are trying to promote media freedom, but we cannot be everywhere. Yes, so journalists need to be very mindful of how they operate. For example, if a journalist is covering news in a conflict-prone area, let's say a lady, how do you prepare? And how prepared are you before you go to that field?
As we conclude, so what are the long-term vision of the Media Council of Kenya for journalists to be in Kenya?
The long vision is also informed of what we are doing currently. Of course, we're looking forward to an industry where journalists can work independently. Through these financial literacy forums, we believe that if maybe journalists are financially stable, even compromising their work simply because of some handouts here and there, it can reduce. Of course, we're looking to an industry where the media freedom is really respected. Let journalists do their work comfortably, so long as they report in a professional manner. We also, looking forward to regular sensitization forums on the code of conduct, because we have a new code of conduct currently. Of course, journalists working in a professional manner, Yeah, because that is what we really want to achieve, where there are limited or rather reduced conflicts between the consumers of news and the journalists, because there's the many complaints here and there, the issue of balance in reporting, the issue of accuracy, such issues. But specifically now that you are talking about issues to do with mental health and all that, we're looking for a media industry where journalists are working comfortably. There are no threats against journalists. There are no attacks on journalists. There are no destruction of properties. There are no destruction of equipment and all that. Where journalists can be given their space, to speak, freely, to disseminate information freely, especially the investigative journalists who invest a lot in ensuring accountability in our country. So we try to explain to the key stakeholders and that this is the importance of the work that journalists do. So if they see journalists, they don't need to see them, or rather they see them as brothers and sisters who are doing their professional work, because we've seen a section of stakeholders seeing journalists as enemies, simply because maybe they're trying to do their work, accurately, and simply because they're annoyed, and then they call them names, they target them illegally, they beat them, they do all sorts of bad things to them. So we're looking to that society, the people who understands what media does, who appreciates what media does, and who supports what media is doing.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much for your insights.
Thank you.
For your time, and have a blessed day.
You too. Thank you very much for this time, and looking forward to more engagements. Sent.